Okay. I should know that by now, right? Okay, yeah, let's do that just in the interest of time. Hey, good afternoon, folks. Welcome to our October edition of our Lunch and Learn. Today we're going to hear from Danielle and Rachel. We're going to have a presentation on an AI prompt book for Agile. Danielle and Rachel are both with Apex Systems. Danielle is the practice director for strategy and transformation, where she leads a team of consultants in strategic initiatives that elevate client success through innovative ways of working and operational excellence. Whereas Rachel is the director of strategy and transformation solutions, and she leads the design and execution of tailored engagements that optimize and transform organizational ways of working. So with that, I would like to welcome Danielle and Rachel. Rachel will be joining us hopefully shortly, just working through some technical things. But in the meantime, welcome Danielle, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I know Rachel's struggling to get in, but I wanted to kick us off because I know all of our time is valuable at the same time. So I have a lot of different things to show you in Copilot specifically today, but it could be used in a lot of different AI tools that you might have. I know a lot of people are thinking AI is gonna take my job in the future, right? And so we're here to kind of show you some things that can really help you with your role and help in everyday life. I don't think there's a day that goes by right now that I don't use Copilot to help me with something. So I wanted to show you some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way too. And we know Copilot can do things such as transcribing and summarizing meetings. And if you're not using it for that, absolutely do so, because it can be such a great way to continue to take notes, as we all do, but also making sure that you're not missing anything, and especially for those key takeaways too. It can help you draft emails, Teams messages, summarize documents, everything from all of those meetings that you have. But as a project manager, a BA, a Scrum Master, it can really help us in even things as risk analysis, backlog refinements, and even just weekly status reports, all the things that, we don't want to have to do all the time as well. So I wanted to just show you a couple of different things. And so if we were doing this to kick off a new project, say, so if I'm kicking off a project and I'm just saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to start a new lemonade flavor for my company, and I want Copilot to help me. So if I'm kicking it off, I'm going to create a new website, and we're going to add this to our website. I want it to go live in 30 days, and I want it to help me create a project plan for me because I got to get this done by the end of the day. Help me identify some risks, create some user stories with some of that suggested acceptance criteria. That way I can kind of get going. So this is just one way that I've used it a lot to help me with my project plans, to help me with my risk analysis, and even make sure that I'm not missing some things too. You can, if you already have a project plan, you already have a risk analysis, you could always upload them and ask Copilot, review my project plan, make sure I'm not missing anything. So with this 30-day timeline, it's got me planning and kicking off. I've got my design and content creation, and it breaks down every single week for me. It also has all of my risks and mitigations and some user stories and acceptance criteria. This is what I really like the best because it even puts it into that user story format. And Copilot always likes to give you some extra information too. Do you want it to help you create a visual timeline or assign tasks? And you can even continue to ask it to create more things. So if I wanted it to create user stories for Jira upload, it can now create that for me. I can even download the CSV file and be able to upload those into Jira. So as it's creating all of these for me, they look great. You can see it's got the different sections that you would need if you were doing it for Jira. You can do this for ADO and other project management tools too. So do I want to export this into a CSV? I can say yes. I won't do that today. It'll take a little bit of time. But then you can also upload it into Jira and it will automatically create your stories for you. Any questions along with this?
Yeah, be sure and use the chat too if you can come off mute if you would like and ask the question, but we also have
Yeah,
chat available.
of course. I love interactive sections. All right, so the next one that I wanted to show is even just things that you might need to do on a day-to-day basis, right? So if I wanted to create job descriptions for Scrum Masters, product owners, team members, then I can share it with my team. Maybe this is new to them. They want to understand their new roles. And I want it to provide a table showing the differences in those roles. So I can go ahead and ask Copilot to do that. And one thing to call out here is that we're being a little bit specific in what we want Copilot to do. So starting out with that instruction, I want to create job description cards, include the context. I want it for my Scrum Masters, the product owners, and the team members. Why do we want that? Because we want them to understand their new roles. And I want to set the formatting expectations. So I want the job description cards, which I have here, and I want the table to show the differences. And so I even called out here to base it on the Scrum Guide. So I'm incorporating some constraints for it too, because we know in the wide world web, there's a ton of information out there for Scrum Masters, product owners, and the like. But when I'm asking it to look at the Scrum Guide, it's pulling that information there. So I'm being very specific for it. So this can help me and my team members in the different areas that they need. So I can take it a step further. Everybody loves a good RACI. We can create a RACI with these roles and include a project manager too. So as it goes through, it's going to identify the RACI for all of these roles. And you can see it's got my Scrum Master, my product owner, team members, and my project manager. And it's got all of those activities and the responsibilities that we might consider. So it's really useful to be able to share this with your team members, maybe leadership, anything that you may need in that. You can also bring it into a PowerPoint, create a quick PDF for people, and just a lot of different things that you can do with it and continue to add on to. All right, any questions on this one? All right. Oh, I think we have a chat. None of these are Copilot agents. So the question was, did you have to build out a Copilot agent to create these results, or did you find that the generative use of the AI itself was able to get you your desired responses? So none of this is using agents at all. So this is just purely using Copilot out of the box, if you will, in what you have today in time. All right. So another way that I can try to use this is really looking at some performance metrics. So I might be new to Agile performance metrics or any sort of metrics that I want to have for a new project. So maybe I'm working with multiple teams, varying levels of Agile maturity, and I want to see some suggested KPIs to track my team's performance. And how can I use them effectively? Maybe some of them are new for me. And so here I can see a couple of different KPIs for delivery, for quality, team health, and process adherence. And it's also going to identify those ones that I can prioritize my time towards. So what are some of the things that I want to focus on, whether it's a low, mid, or high prior maturity team, identify those outliers, visualize trends, and so forth. So I can even have it create a dashboard for me. It can give me suggested metrics for these and how I can continue to use them with my teams. You can also take your own business KPIs or goals and ask Copilot, here are my goals. How's my team progressing on these? Or how can I measure the effectiveness of these goals? There's a lot of different things that we can use Copilot for when it's just really looking at how we have all of these metrics for things and how we can visualize them at the same time. All right. So just to show maybe a visualization for you too, I can upload information where I want to create a chart. I want to see how many people have been unique visitors to my website each month. So I have the data, and because I'm putting this into a presentation for leadership, I want to make sure I'm using my company colors. So I've added in my branding colors in here that shows these are the items that we're going to have. And I can ask for that chart. So I've used this a lot if I don't necessarily have a chart ready to go, or I want to show some trending data, anything like that. You can tell Copilot to create that chart for you or a graph for you, and it will use the information that you give it, and it will create a chart for you. I really like to tell it what brand colors to use. Otherwise, it just use typical black and grayscale colors. So as it's gathering this information, it'll give us a nice chart. And then you can use that into any PowerPoint deck or presentation that you're using. So you can see that it's using all of the colors that I asked it to use, and it's trending upwards, if you will. I can even ask it to add in a trending line or maybe show a projection of what the rest of the year might look like. As it takes a moment to analyze for us, sometimes it can go pretty quickly and sometimes it might take a little bit. So now I can see where my line is trending. I can also see a projection of what the rest of the year is going to bring me as well. So even though we did unique visitors on a website, there's a ton of different things that you can put in here, whether it's monthly, weekly, quarterly, and so forth, and be able to take this and drop it into a PowerPoint or anywhere else that you need to show that information. Any questions?
What's been your experience with exporting to PowerPoint, Excel, PDF? And I'm really interested in the quality of such once
Yes,
you export.
it's gotten better, I will say. So when I first started using Copilot, it would sometimes just drop it in to Word or PowerPoint or Excel, and it wasn't really formatted in the best way. So these days it has gotten better. If I were to take this and put it into a PowerPoint, I would just click on this copy button here and copy it and paste it into a PowerPoint.
Okay.
Or you can download it too. If you download it, then at least you have that image saved as well. And then we can say export to PowerPoint. And so I haven't necessarily used it a lot with PowerPoint just because we have our branding at Apex for PowerPoint, and so we
Sure.
usually use the ones that are in there. And when this gets exported to PowerPoint, it usually gives you a blank page. But if you have a Word document, say, or even an outline in Copilot, you can then put it into PowerPoint. And if it does give you kind of just the context there, then you can use the designer and the Copilot within PowerPoint to actually make it look better too.
Okay. Very good.
So let's see
Oh,
what it
here
gave
we
us.
go. What did it provide?
Oh, it looks better than I expected it to look. But it didn't give me my actual chart. It kind of gave me a description of it, and gave me a nice looking PowerPoint, but it didn't actually give me the chart itself. So I would have to go
Okay.
in, say, add a new slide. I can go back up here and I can copy this and I can paste that in.
Okay. Very good.
Yep. And
Hey,
then, yeah, when you
Dan,
have Designer and Copilot within there, it can even update it for you with whatever branding you have.
okay,
Yeah, very
I
good
like it.
question.
Hey, earlier you had talked about potential to upload into Jira,
Hmm.
and then um, my organization being a Jira shop, I'm just curious, just what's been your experience with use of Copilot in Jira, particularly in user stories, or maybe even help managing a backlog?
Sure. So I have not used Copilot with Jira itself. I have created user stories, put it into a file, and then uploaded it into Jira. So we don't have the license for Copilot and Jira together. So that's been a constraint of ours, but you can have it create all of your user stories, tell it to format it for Jira, download the CSV file, and then upload it into Jira too.
Okay, thank you. And
Yeah.
then I see a comment about Copilot in PowerPoint has gotten pretty cool about creating stuff in the tool. Okay, good
Yes.
to know.
Yeah, it gets better, I will say, every month, right? So if something doesn't necessarily work to your satisfaction, try it in a couple of weeks and it'll probably get better too. All right. I've been talking a lot about branding, and one thing that I really like about Copilot here is to be able to put in your own branding and save it at the same time. So when I go into the create feature here, this allows you to create images, videos, infographics, and so forth. But I've used it a lot for my own branding purpose. So when you go in, you can describe what you want for your image, but you can also have brands and colors in here too. So when I have all of these different types of colors, I can also go in and add a new branding kit. So when I add a new branding kit in there, let me create a new one. It just wants me to use this one. I don't know why it's not letting me create a new one. Well, you can see that I've added in for Apex. And technology just doesn't want to work with us today. Oh, there we go. So create. You can go to the more button and down to brand kits. So this is what I like to set up for myself. As you can see, I've got a couple of branding kits here. When I click on new brand kit, I can call it, whatever I want. Go ahead and create that. And this allows me to add in a logo, add in different colors, fonts, and different images too. So I can upload a logo. Let me see, I've got something in the downloads here. I can add in colors that I want. So I can just go in and type in different colors that if you have the hex color for that, you can add them in, or you can select the color that you want. Add in specific fonts. So if your company is using a specific font, you can select that. If there's any other images that you'd want, and your branding voice. So now I've got my brand kit here. And so when I go to create an image, I can select the one that I want. So I've used this for even just fun things internally. So if I'm doing a team building event or a philanthropy event, and I want a quick little logo to make it fun and exciting, I'll use Copilot just to create a logo for me using the specific colors that I want and the branding that I want. You can do this for flyers and different types of events. And even if you wanted to create something for PowerPoint, as we were talking about from some of those images.
Yeah, I could see it would be useful for just internal projects if you wanted to put like a brand on whatever your project is that you're working on.
Yep, exactly. And I got my lemonade stand flyer here. Sometimes it is a little bit slow, but it's gotten faster. And while this is
Well, we'll wait.
loading, yeah, did Rachel join us
Yeah.
or? Oh, good.
I'm here.
Yay!
Hey, Rachel.
I mean, I could keep
welcome.
talking, but I think they want to listen to other people other than just me.
I was really excited to see this lemonade stand, though.
Yeah, it makes me want
Thank
some
you,
lemonade.
Rachel.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about the technical difficulty, but glad that
Yeah.
I can be here. And yeah, I'm ready to share a prompt or two if we want to switch gears a little bit. We want to
Yeah,
wait for
go
this
for
image to finish.
Yeah. Hey, Danielle, while the image is building,
Mhm.
I'm just curious about kind of security of sharing data in Copilot. What's your awareness around that subject? And for example,
Yeah.
if you're sharing like project specific information, is it now going to be out on the World Wide Web?
Yes, that's a great question. And I know we have strict security at Apex. And so they've done a lot of due diligence on their end to make sure that Copilot is safe, even for us, because we have a lot of confidential client information and things like that too, right? If you work for a financial services company, if you work for a healthcare company, you're dealing with a lot of different information that you need to keep secure. And so I know there's a lot of things that are done in the background for Copilot. I'm right now, as I'm demoing everything to you, if you've noticed, oops, I have this work and web up at the top here. And so because I'm doing all of this demo, I'm on the web side. So it's not pulling anything from our Apex side. If I were to click on work, this is where it's actually searching things in our Apex files itself. So I would only use work when I'm sharing my screen internally or anything like that. But the web, it's actually pulling out from the web, which is why I used kind of that example to look at the Scrum guide, right? Even if I had work highlighted and I still told it to look at the Scrum guide, it would, but it would also look internally. Here, it's very important to even identify what you do want it to look at, whether it's the Scrum guide, ProSci, anything like that, where you know you're getting good information from them. So when you give those constraints, it's also helping Copilot to refine what it gives back to you at the same time. So I know I didn't directly answer your question. I need one of my IT guys to be on here to answer that question, but I do know we've been given the okay for certain things like that too. All right, I'll stop
Thank you.
sharing.
Yeah,
I'll let
that's
Rachel
helpful.
take over. Yeah.
And I see Jamie
Okay.
commented and agree. I hadn't noticed that work versus web feature before. So thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, the first prompt I'm going to share with you all is related to creating a project schedule and a work breakdown structure. I don't know if you have to create work breakdown structures, but if you do, you've probably dealt with the struggle of making it really nicely aligned and visual. So I found a neat way to use Copilot and PowerPoint to kind of save you some of that effort. So my prompt is really basic. If I had a real life project scenario with more detail, I would certainly paste it here so that my results would be even more accurate. But for illustrative purposes, my prompt is really about, hey, we're rolling out a new ERP. We have a date when the project is starting, in this case, May 2025. We want to finish it a year later. I need a project schedule and I need a work breakdown structure. So it's going to take the information that I gave it and it's going to come up with at least a starting point for us. And what you'll notice is first it starts with this work breakdown structure kind of indented bulleted list. And then it also gives me a high-level schedule and timeline. So I think this is great if you just need something to get started. And certainly, again, the more information you give it, the better result you'll get. Oh, it even gave me a little bonus, PMBOK knowledge areas covered. That's really neat. But what I want to show you that I think is cool is you can actually take this work breakdown structure text. I'm going to copy it all. And I'm going to use PowerPoint to help me make it more visual in the traditional work breakdown structure format. So I've got a PowerPoint open here. I'm going to go to Insert and then Smart Art. And I'm going to choose Hierarchy, and I'm just going to choose the first one. And now I'm going to simply paste everything that came out of Copilot into here. Looks like it didn't save the hierarchy levels. Let's try again. Oh boy, okay. Last time I tested this out, it actually saved the hierarchy levels, but that's okay. We can still manipulate this. So what you'll just want to do is start indenting a little bit. And you'll see how by using this hierarchy chart, it starts to look like a work breakdown structure in a more traditional format. I'll get rid of the rest just to make it easier to view. But if you take a look at this, and I can make it bigger, and I'll put it on full screen for you too, so you can all see it in a second. But what a great way to quickly just get you started with creating that WBS visual that we often look for. And certainly check your results from Copilot or from whatever chatbot you're using. Make sure that it reflects what you want it to. But now you can easily manipulate this and type in, and you can add more layers of the hierarchy as well, just by indenting and adding more levels. So really neat way to get you started. Any questions on that? Did anyone miss any steps? Do you want me to show you anything again? All right.
You know, that is helpful to be able to transfer it into PowerPoint to better present the information out. That's good.
Yeah. Cool. Shall I do another one, or we want to switch back to Danielle? I'll do another.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
How about a project charter too, if you happen to have anything teed up like that?
Ooh, I don't have a charter teed up. Do you, Danielle?
I don't, but I think we could tell it to create us a
We
project
could,
charter.
absolutely. What's the challenge that we're having? What do we need help with? We need it to create a project charter for us. Maybe let's pretend we don't know what goes on our charter. Maybe we've never written one before. We don't know all the different fields. So who has a project
for like this
right
project?
now? Yeah.
How about this ERP implementation?
Okay.
That you're demoing? Maybe something around that.
All right. I need a project charter. What fields should I include? Let's see what it spits out at us. It'll be interesting if it gives us a nicely formatted document, but all right, first it's telling me the fields that it's looking for. Okay, here's a sample. I have to move my Zoom share window out of the way. Title, purpose, objectives. Okay, very good. Requirements, description and scope, milestones, budget. Obviously, we didn't tell it anything about budget, so we would definitely want to do that. Oh, it's making me the authority here, and it's suggesting some stakeholders. That's interesting. Assumptions and constraints, risks, and signatures. Okay, awesome. So yeah, I would like it formatted into a Word document. So let's see if it does that. a lot of times when I do this, just like with generating PowerPoints, I'm not always happy with the results that I get, but sometimes pleasantly surprised.
And while waiting for this too, Rachel, there was a question in the chat about the WBS and how well would it paste into MS Project?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't have a project license, so I haven't been able to test it out. But if you have one, try it. Have it build you one in your chatbot and then copy paste and see if that works. All right, here's my Word doc.
While we're
Let's
waiting for
see.
that, there's a couple more comments too in the chat.
Okay. Oh, this is not the charter. It created a document of the project schedule and the WBS. All right, so it didn't quite understand my prompt. So I would need to tell it to format the charter into a Word document because it was using the previous prompt. So how did it come up with the schedule? So the way it came up with the schedule was purely guessing because my prompt that I gave it was pretty minimal. I didn't give it a lot of information. I gave it a start date and I gave it a finish date. And so what it's doing is it's taking all the information that it can find on the web about similar ERP implementation type of projects and coming up with what it thinks should be an accurate schedule. So again, if we had more information about our project or about specific milestones that we knew we wanted to achieve, make those part of your prompt because the more information you give it, the more accurate a result you're going to get. But this is just purely for illustrative purposes. And really what I wanted to show you was that work breakdown structure. Okay. Pass it back over to you, Danielle.
Sure. Right, so I know Rachel showed us a couple of different things with work breakdown structures and the project schedule. And one thing that I think comes up a lot these days as project managers is how do we communicate this big change to people? And if you don't have a change manager in your group, that might seem like a daunting task too. And so one thing that we were struggling with today is Zoom, right? So what if we move to Microsoft Teams? What pro-sci strategies for change management and guidance can you help us to help all of our people go from Zoom to using Microsoft Teams, as I want to support my teams in adopting this? So this could be any project that you're doing. It could be any change that's inside your organization, or even helping you communicate change to your customers at the same time. So you can see it's using ProSci's ADKAR model. Again, we're giving it those constraints to use, and it's going to give us how we can set this up. So awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. Additional tips to really overcome that resistance at the same time, because we all know a lot of people are resistant to change. And so now I want it to help me create a communication plan. So it can give me suggestions, team onboarding guide, training plan, communication template, but I want to make sure that it knows that I'm going to have people resistant to the change. I'm giving it more context. So I want it to create a communication plan so that I can roll out Microsoft Teams to replace Zoom. So now it's giving me that full communication plan. So while we do need change managers, if we don't necessarily have one in our group yet, this can certainly help us with some of that change communication too. So you can see it's got my phase communication timelines, key messages, and it even broke it down by the type of audience that I need too. Go ahead, Brian.
This is awesome. Nice.
Yeah, it makes the assumptions that, right, we're going to have champions. Of course, we always do. But how do we handle those resistant users? I really like this, how it breaks it down for us too. And even gives us ideas for recognizing those that go above and beyond. Any questions?
So you scrolled through there pretty quickly. Did it actually create things like email messages or more of just a suggestion?
It gave us the suggestion, but we can tell it to
I
create
see.
the email messages too. So
Okay, Dana, this will be for you. I noticed you said you're a resistor.
Oh, I'm a resistor. You might need to, prompt for how to convince the IT director to switch to Teams. I don't know. I don't know if it'll happen.
Yeah, so it gives us the exact email message to promote out. And now I can even ask it to create me a Teams message too. So now we can post it into Teams or Slack or anywhere else that we want. And it gives us that quicker view than just a long email. So I even do things like this too, where I'll say, today is National Employee Recognize Your Employee Day. And I'll tell Copilot, today is National Recognize Your Employee Day. Create a Teams message for me recognizing my employees. And it will do that for me. So there's a lot of different things that you can have Copilot do, even just on the side for these types of things too.
One of my favorite things that we discovered was having Copilot create a roast of your calendar and, and your Outlook schedule. It's pretty funny.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm doing that right now. That sounds amazing. My team will love that.
If you have a team meeting where everyone is on video too, and you have Copilot in your teams, you can tell it to create a roast for everyone in the meeting. And it will also look at their pictures and their backgrounds at the same time and include it in the roast. It's really fun.
Okay. Signed up. That's what will get me to not resist right there.
There's a ton of different team building things that you can do, whether you're inside of a meeting or even coming up with ideas at the same time. So for example, I have one here that when I'm a project manager and I want to collaborate with an offshore team, right? That's something that we've all maybe struggled with before, whether it's an offshore or a nearshore team. Sometimes those team building activities don't translate very well. So I just put a general offshore team, and it gave me some ideas on how we can have that team building opportunity, cultural exchange, buddy systems. But you can also refine it more and say, my team is working with people from England, my team is working with people from Australia. And it will even look at the type of culture for those people and come up with some team building activities too. So these are always nice to take a look at and be able to use.
Awesome.
All right. I'll send it over to you, Rachel.
All right. I'm going to go back to the not as fun team building stuff, but I have another one for very practical project management application or maybe business analyst application. If you ever had to create flow charts, this is also something that can be very time consuming. So I have a prompt that I've pre-built here. And again, it's a very basic prompt. And if I had really detailed information, I would certainly put it. But my prompt is that I'm a project manager. I work for a nonprofit that relies heavily on government grants. There's a lot of red tape around the process that we need to follow to apply for the grants. And it's hard for our volunteers to understand this when written into a standard operating procedure. Can you create a process flowchart illustrating how this process should work? Now, in an ideal world, I would also upload that procedure, that written document, so that it knew exactly what the process was. I don't have that. This is just an example, but hopefully when I click this submit button, it's going to actually generate a flowchart for me by coming up with what it thinks the realistic process should look like. And then I'm also going to show you how to manipulate the flowchart so that you can make changes to what's on there as well. So it looks like it's doing it as an image. So this is good, especially if, like I said, you have that SOP and you upload it. This might be a huge time saver and you could just copy paste the image. I already know that this image is not going to be what I want, and I'm going to have to manipulate it because I didn't give it a lot of information. So instead of letting it finish the image, I'm going to just tell it to stop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to create a process using mermaid code. And then I'm going to take that code and I'm going to paste it into an online process flowchart tool. So again, maybe another way to help save you some time. All right. I'll tell you, every time I've used this prompt, it gives me a different flowchart, which is again why it's so important to put in your SOP if you have one. But as you can see, the result is pretty good. And if this were the actual process, it's a pretty easy flowchart for me to read and understand what happens. Certainly, I need to make sure that this is accurate, but now I want to manipulate it. So how do I do that? Up here at the top, there's this display options dropdown. I can first choose display as code. I'm going to copy and paste all of this code into this online tool called draw.io. It's free. Go to the plus sign, and down at the bottom, there's an advanced option, and I'm going to select mermaid. I'm just going to replace what's in this box with that code, and I'm going to hit insert. Now I have a flowchart that I can actually manipulate and change around. And wow, how much time does that save me trying to build this thing from scratch? So I could change the text that's inside. I could move boxes around and change the arrows. I could change the shape of the thing. I could add colors, whatever I need to do. But this, I think, is a huge time saver. And I'm curious if anyone has ever used this tool or maybe something similar to do a flowchart. I use draw.io. Perfect. Cool. Any questions? Anyone need to see any of those steps again? Had to look up mermaid code. Yep. Interesting way to jumpstart flow. Yeah. So I know it's a built-in option when you're using Copilot. Again, I just hit this display options button and I chose display as code. Okay. Back over to you, Danielle.
Yeah, sure. I know you've got more as well, but so I'll do this one quickly. Of course, I have to share my screen. So one of the things that we were talking about earlier is just fun things, right? And so sometimes you might have a long, stressful sprint, and when you go into your retrospective, you may want to make it a little bit fun. So if we want to make this one a Star Wars theme, we can have it create that retrospective for us, give us some ideas for Star Wars. And here's a cool format. I'm not a Star Wars fiend, but this seems pretty cool where you have a Jedi Council on what went well and the dark side didn't go so well. And it gave me a couple of more. So just because somebody likes Star Wars, they might like Mario Kart or Harry Potter or even a movie night one. And then they can even ask me if I want to create a quick mural or mural board. So those are nice things that you can add on to it as well and be able to ask it to provide some ideas when you want to change things up and make it fun too. See what the chat says.
This is really fun. Movie night retrospective.
I don't like boring retrospectives, so I use this to give me ideas all the time.
Have you tried, I see at the bottom, it's suggesting maybe a quick mural or mural board layout. Have you tried it? Does it do a good job generating that?
I don't have Miro, but we can have it create a mural board. Let me see if I just got a new computer. So I don't know if I even signed into Miro.
I'm just curious how good of a job it's going to do.
Thinking.
I hope it's not an image again. Okay.
Yeah, I
I've
know
got another.
we at Apex don't have the Copilot to Mural integration right now. But there is Mural AI too, which would be really fun to use for different retrospectives, and it gives you different ideas too.
Nice. I can share the next one while that's generating and we can come back to it.
Yeah.
Oh, it made a Star Wars retro one for you. Let's see it.
See what we end up with here.
Oh,
So it did
wow.
not create a
Ah,
it created a
okay.
mural as in picture, not mural
Uh-huh.
as in using mural itself.
And that
But this is fun because you can walk your team through the Star Wars retro.
that
And
is
it gave
fun.
us a lot of great descriptions for each item too. Yoda's wisdom. I love it.
I think I'm gonna steal this one for my next retro.
Yeah, very good. And even with Yoda's wisdom, one thing that you can put into Copilot, say you have an email and you want it to tell it to make it sound like Yoda said it. It will literally translate it so that it makes it sound like Yoda said it or any other character. So always fun stuff. All right.
Awesome.
I'll throw it over back to you, Rachel.
All right, here we go with another time-saving tip. So how many of you have to create surveys in, whatever role you're in? At some point, I'm sure you've had to create one. If you've got access to Microsoft Forms through Office 365, there is a Copilot integration, which, as long as your organization has enabled it, can save you a ton of time. So in the past, when I would build a survey, I would have to write out the questions and then think about what are the response types that I want to offer, and then go build it in the survey tool. Now, Copilot within Forms is just going to build it for me based on my prompt. So my prompt is, we're gathering requirements for a new mobile banking application. We want to understand user behavior and sentiment around the current mobile banking app. Please provide at least 15 questions we can ask users. We want to gauge how they are using the system, the main challenges or frustration they're experiencing, and any ideas they have. So I'm just going to hit that send button, and it's actually going to generate the entire survey for me. And again, I'm just like, wow, how much time did this just save? At least 30 minutes probably of work just getting it set up. And then I can adjust anything I want. Like if I don't like the way something is worded, I could change it. I'm going to hit this keep it button and it'll allow me to edit. So I could change the question. I can change the options that it gave me. I can add more. I can insert more questions if there's something it didn't think of. But I think just scrolling through quickly, it did a pretty good job coming up with questions that I might want to ask if I'm trying to figure out what should the new application have. Ratings, technical issues, open text boxes. This is really good. And now if you don't have Copilot enabled with Forms through your organization, and maybe you have access to some different chatbot tool, what you could still do is put your prompt into the tool and then ask it to suggest the response types for each question, so that when you copy and paste the questions, let's say into SurveyMonkey, for example, or Google Forms, now you don't have to think about what response type makes sense. You can just select the one that it suggested and even use the response options that it'll give you. So another way around it, just to save you some time if you don't have this particular tool enabled. Any questions on that? No. All right. We probably have time for one more if you're up for it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So my last one I'll do is a simple RACI. So this time I'm going to ask it to create a RACI chart for an Agile team. And I'm telling it how I want it to format my response. So I am giving it some direction here. I want the responsibilities on the left of a table, and I want the roles along the top. I want each cell to have an R, A, C, or an I, but only one role is marked accountable per responsibility. And what it should generate here in a second is an actual table that has roles for an Agile team on it, as well as responsibilities that are associated. And as you can see, at first glance, it's done a pretty good job listening to my instructions. I have the roles, I have the responsibilities, each cell is filled in. I'm only seeing one A per responsibility. So this is pretty good. And now I could just copy and paste this table into Excel, PowerPoint, Word, wherever I might need to show a RACI to my team to help with that accountability conversation. I can even ask it to export to Excel or Word. Something else you could do is if you had an SOP or a process document that maybe there's a lot of roles listed on there, you could upload that and ask it to generate a summarized RACI for you. That way you don't have to really dig through the document to understand who's all responsible for what. Any questions on that?
That's pretty slick.
Okay. Well, I know we've got about 4 minutes left in our lunch and learn today, so happy to take any other questions, or if anyone else has ideas they want to share in the chat of things they've done and used something like this for, it'd be great to share and hear your experiences too.
So Rachel and Danielle, you demoed Copilot today. Have you used other AI tools, ChatGPT, Grok, etc.?
Yes,
And
I have, and
okay.
I'm sure Danielle has too. I think we're both using Copilot because we're using our organization's technology today to be here. But personally, on my personal laptop, I'll typically use ChatGPT. I've also used Claude quite a bit because I'm actually writing a book right now. And so I'm asking Claude to be my editor and suggest, how to make the tone flow better throughout and critique my arguments and things like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I live in Copilot because it really has direct access to all of my Microsoft products. So it can pull from Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, and all of my other Teams messages too.
Sure.
So that's
Yeah.
huge when it comes to working for sure. I even use ChatGPT when I'm coming up with plans for my soccer practice. So I'll tell it I'm coaching 12-year-old boys. There's going to be 10 kids there, and I want to work on spacing out or passing. And I'll tell it my practice is for an hour and a half. I want a warm up and a cool down, and it will give me the
Nice.
whole practice plan.
Huh.
So there's a ton of different things that you can use it for sure. And one of the other AI tools that I use a lot is within Mural, as I was talking about. There's a Mural AI, and it's great for coming up with not just templates, but generating ideas, grouping ideas, sorting them, prioritizing them, mind mapping. The list goes on. I'd love to be able to even show you all what we do in Mural at the same time, but it's definitely a time saver for sure.
Absolutely. All right. And thank you, Dana, for sharing the reminder on reporting PDUs. Very good. Rachel, Danielle, thank you so much for spending the hour with the PMI team members. And with that, just note too that this is on our YouTube channel will be the recording. So if whatever you saw, if you wanted to get a reminder of it, it'll be available to you through the chapter's YouTube channel. Just go to our website for the link. And I see lots of thank yous and comments in the chat. Again, appreciate your time. And with that, we'll close it out for this month's Lunch and Learn. Take care.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.